We're going to solve a formula. The formula is C equals 1 over A minus D, and we're going to solve for D. Now, if you see a formula on a test, don't be intimidated by all of the variables that you see. Solving a formula is exactly like solving an equation. You just have more variable terms rather than numerical terms, but the steps that you go through are just the same. So the first thing that we want to do, we have a fraction on the right-hand side, and it involves the variable that we're solving for. So let's begin by clearing the fraction. We'll multiply both sides of the equation by something so that we don't have a fraction on the right-hand side anymore. And what we'll multiply by is the denominator of that fraction, a minus d. So we take a minus d times c on the left-hand side, and a minus d times 1 over a minus d on the right-hand side. Now on the left-hand side I can multiply c times the quantity a minus d, and I get ac minus dc. And on the right-hand side, when I do this multiplication, I just have the numerator of the fraction, which is 1. Now remember, we want to solve for d, so we want to get d alone on one side of this equation. And the next thing I'm going to do to achieve that is to subtract ac on both sides so that I just have the d term on the left. So we'll write ac minus dc minus ac is equal to 1 minus ac. And that gives me on the left the opposite of d times c, and I have 1 minus ac on the right-hand side. And now to get d alone, this opposite of dc I can think of as the opposite of c times d. So that tells me that if I divide both sides by the opposite of c, I'll have d alone on the left-hand side. So let's do that. We have the opposite of d times c divided by the opposite of c is equal to 1 minus ac divided by the opposite of c. And I can simplify on the left-hand side. I just have d, and that is equal to 1 minus ac over the opposite of c. Now there's another way that this can be expressed. Remember, we had d equals 1 minus ac over the opposite of c. If I look at 1 minus ac over the opposite of c and multiply both sides of this, or multiply numerator and denominator by negative 1, so I'm multiplying by 1 in the form of negative 1 over negative 1, I have 1 minus ac over the opposite of c. Then I have negative 1 times 1 minus ac over negative 1 times the opposite of c. When I do this multiplication in the numerator, I'm going to get negative 1 times 1, which is negative 1, and the second multiplication gives me plus ac. And in the denominator, I have c. So we can say that d is equal to negative 1 plus ac over c, or if I write it with the ac term first in the numerator, I could also write this as ac minus 1 over c. So this form, or this form are all acceptable correct answers for the solution of this formula.